Right, what's going on, guys? Now, here's my preview for Tottenham going into next season. Now, last season I got to hold my hands up. I predicted them to finish quite low. And when you look at it, the grand scheme of things, Ange proved a lot of people wrong. Tottenham had a very good season on paper. So you would think that coming fifth last season, you would think they'll push on, maybe hope to finish fifth again, maybe fourth, third. I don't think that's going to happen. And I know, listen, I support Arsenal, so it can come across like I'm being very biased against Tottenham. It's not the case. Like, I've seen wonderful Tottenham teams under Pochettino, and I've predicted them to finish high, so it's nothing to do with that. But in the second half of last season, they fell off massively. And even though it was enough to get them fifth, their form in the second half of last season, I saw a stat that it was Fulham and Bournemouth. I don't know if they recouped more points, but their second halves of the season were very similar in points to Spurs. And I think for a team finishing fifth, that can't happen. And I think what's going to happen next year is Ange is already a guy who is not happy after he had a bit of a run-in with the fans for the City game. Something just doesn't feel right. It papered over the cracks, them finishing fifth, but I look at it and I think that team needed strengthening early doors this summer. They had a great summer window last year. They got Maddison, Vicario, Van der Ven, and there's a few others. Very good window. But this season, they've signed 4 players. Timo Werner was already at the club last season, so it doesn't really count. And they've bought 3 18-year-old kids. Now, listen, Archie Gray's one of them. I really like Archie Gray. I think he's got a big future ahead of him. He looked good at Leeds, but he's a kid. How can Tottenham, and this is classic Levy, how can Tottenham be serious about finishing above fifth, which they need to do? Listen, Ange Postecoglou's come fifth. You know, that's his first season. You don't want to get worse than the previous season. So now for them to get competitive and to do better than last season, they would need to equal fifth or finish higher. And there's no evidence in the second half of last season that team is capable of doing it. They were on the curve. If there was another 10 games that followed after May, they would have finished even lower. They weren't in good form. They've got major problems, especially in defence. I mean, Ange didn't cover himself in too much glory with the style. I love the style, but he did prove to not have a plan B. That could be a problem next year. And they needed to have a window like last year, and they just haven't done that. I think when you're finishing 9th or 10th and you're bringing in 18-year-old kids, that's okay, because, you hope the club can grow in time for when those 18-year-old kids get to about 22, 23, and hopefully you're second or third in the league by then. But it's just the wrong timing completely. And I can't see whoever's a Tottenham fan needs to show me some evidence that Tottenham are capable of finishing fifth or above this season, because there's no evidence to prove it. The second half of last season was so disappointing, and they needed... I know there's still time left in the window, but the games start in 3 weeks, and before you know it, the weeks will go so quickly and they won't have bought anyone. And if I was a Tottenham fan right now, I'll be livid that Tottenham have not brought in any players, because it's going to get very, very close to the season, and they needed strengthening. That team needs reinforcements just to even level what they did last season, let alone do better. And I can't see it. It's not like Chelsea, where Chelsea started the season badly and then finished it on a high. That's different. Then you can sort of, be a bit satisfied. But to finish fifth and your second half of the season was so poor, it's just... if I was a Tottenham fan, I'd be a bit concerned. And you don't know if Maddison's going to be 100% fit, because he's had a lot of injury problems. There's major issues for Tottenham, and I can't see how they're going to finish higher than last season. Seriously, I can't see it, and I'm looking at it. I'm thinking they need to buy some players this week. If they can't buy them this week, bring them in next week, because you don't want to leave it to the last minute, because then it becomes a panic, and Tottenham will then find themselves in a panic where They have to bring in players, and it won't be the players they really want because they're panicking. They have to bring in names, and it won't, you know, it's different for Arsenal and City because Arsenal and City have already got more or less the team sorted. It's just a 5% that needs changing. Tottenham need over 50% of that team changing because the squad players clearly aren't good enough, and there's certain players in their first team who really are, they're either not ready or they are just not good enough either. Seriously. And listen, if any Tottenham fan wants to fight a corner, please feel free. It's got nothing to do with Pochettino had some wonderful Tottenham teams, so it's nothing to do with Spurs. But I'm talking as a neutral, and I just think buying 3 18-year-old kids is not the answer. To try and get better than 5th, Man United are strengthening, Chelsea are getting better, Arsenal and City will keep getting better. So they're going to really lose sight of where they are, because 5th place is hard to top if you're in such bad form, and we'll see. You know, let me know what you think. Are Tottenham in danger, or will they be okay?